Good morning. The conference has started, but let me give everybody 1 more minute and then I will start. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the third TAAT Investors Forum. My name is Nkiru Pareke, co-founder of Envirogrow Farms, an agripreneur, aka I'm just a farmer. Bonjour, bienvenue. Comment ça va? Je m'appelle Nkiru Pareke. Why the Investors Forum? As an agripreneur myself, a lot of technologies developed in the industry haven't positively impacted practitioners in the sector because of non-mass production. And sometimes we're not even sure about the information. We don't even know these technologies exist. And even when the technology is known, it's only few industry players that know about it. But this forum provides a level playing ground for everybody to get a piece of the pie. This is our third conference and is focused on seeds, new varieties, and associated technologies. TAAT, because people will keep hearing TAAT. TAAT is Technologies for African Agricultural Transformation. It's a program of the African Development Bank. As you all know, farming is like computers, garbage in, garbage out. Some standard seeds, substandard harvest, which is what many of us get in Africa. For us in Nigeria, it's whatever you see that you buy, and many times you put in the same efforts, but your yields are low because what you started in the first input, which are the seeds, are really terrible. So TAAT is trying to solve that problem for we farmers. The advantage of working with TAAT is that TAAT has done all the heavy lifting, research, product testing, marketability, production adoption proven, with already all the technologies we showcase today are already in at least one country. And what TAAT is just asking you to partner with us to scale and for market penetration of those new technologies. And the great thing is that TAAT is not focused solely on profit, but also on greater good the technology will do for food production in Africa. We'll hear more about TAAT and the initiatives in the course of this conference. Finally, some housekeeping rules before we go into the forum. I hope everyone has received the agenda. And with all your cooperation, we'll try as much as possible to stick to time. Everyone will be muted, and all questions will be from the chat box during the Q&A. We'll not be omitting anyone to speak, please, because people can run away and end up speaking, asking a question for 2 or 3 minutes. Translator service is available for non-English speakers, so please try and use that. Thank you, everyone. And now we're going to play a video, and after that, I'll call on Dr. Fregene to open the forum.
Every day in Africa, millions of women work hard to find what they need to feed their families. But market prices keep rising, and it is becoming more and more challenging to make ends meet. Following the COVID-19 pandemic, 24 million more African people fell into further poverty. Since February 2022, the situation has gotten worse.
Принято решение по проведению специальной военной операции.
The Russian invasion of Ukraine has actually led to increasing prices, not just of food, but also fertilizer. Africa's agriculture needs to be made more resilient.
The magnitude of food price increases and trade disruptions caused by the Russian-Ukraine conflict have hit Africa harder than other developing regions of the world, threatening to topple the continent's food systems already stressed by the COVID-19 pandemic.
Together, Russia and Ukraine produce more than a quarter of global wheat exports. As Africa spends more than $35 billion on food importation, food prices are due to increase, leading to disastrous food shortages impacting millions of people. However, Africa has what it takes to become the world's breadbasket, with 65% of its land remaining uncultivated. Thus, Africa needs its own solution for working towards food self-sufficiency.
The African Development Bank, therefore, under my leadership, is fully prepared to meet this new challenge and others head-on with your support. We have developed an emergency food crisis response facility.
The African Development Bank Group is launching the African Emergency Food Production Facility, a $1.5 billion emergency support program to enhance food production. Instead of a short-term distribution of food aid, the facility is proposing a long-term solution to help African countries get back on track with the Sustainable Development Goals. The African Emergency Food Production Facility draws on lessons learned from the African Development Bank's Feed Africa strategy. One of the proven models is the Technologies for African Agricultural Transformation Program, also called TAAT.
They taught me good agricultural practices, including how to select good seeds suitable for my farm.
In the past, we used to get low yields using uncertified seeds, but we've been trained through farmer field schools on how to produce our own seeds and become seed producers instead of seed buyers.
Since its inception in 2019, the TAAT program has delivered heat-tolerant wheat varieties to 1.8 million farmers in 7 countries, increasing wheat production by 2.7 million metric tons. 40 more African countries are ready to join the TAAT program. With the Ukraine-Russia war, fertilizer prices have also increased by 300%. The African Emergency Food Production Facility will address the fertilizer shortage and deliver over 3 million metric tons of fertilizers to smallholder farmers to help them increase yield via credit guarantees and other financial instruments.
Huu mradi umenisaidia sana kuweza kutanua wigo wa biashara yangu. Nimeweza kuhudumia wakulima mwaka jana zaidi ya wakulima 12,000. Nimeweza kuongeza maagrodila wa vijijini zaidi ya 15. Nimeweza kuajiri vijana kama vijana 9. Nimeweza kufanya mambo mengi ya maendeleo. Na mimi mwenyewe najikimu kimaisha.
Over the next 2 years, the African Emergency Food Production Facility will provide over 20 million African farmers with improved seeds, climate-adapted crop varieties, fertilizer, extension services, and technical support. After a 5-year ramp-up phase, the facility is expected to produce a total of 37.6 million metric tons of food, including wheat, rice, maize, and soybeans, mitigating the inflation caused by a global food crisis. The African Emergency Food Production Facility will drive the continent's agricultural revolution, because now is the time to act.
Thank you. Now I will introduce Dr. Fregene to open the forum. Dr. Fregene, are you available?
Good morning, Madam Nkiru. How are you?
Fine,
good to see you again. And
yes.
also good to see all the colleagues again. I want to begin by thanking ITA, particularly my good friend Frederick, for organizing the third investor forum. This is becoming a very popular place to discuss, how we can get the private sector fully involved in TAAT. As you just saw from the excellent video that was shown, The Ukraine war has kind of revealed the soft underbelly, that's the limitations of African agriculture. Suddenly we find ourselves a continent with so many tens of millions of able-bodied young men with tens of millions of hectares of arable land and lots of rivers. We find ourselves going to plead with people who are at war to give us food. It's a big contradiction. And the reason why this is so is because for a long time, Africa has relied upon cheap, food from other countries. It's easy to buy wheat at $250 per ton rather than develop your own wheat sector. And also, why this is so is because our food system, our value chains on the continent are not competitive. How much we produce maize delivered in Accra, Ghana, from the northern parts of Ghana is more expensive than if you had to bring that same maize from Brazil or from Argentina. But then how do we make food production competitive? The only way we can make production competitive is by increasing productivity so that the value chain becomes efficient, And how do you increase productivity? Of course, as you have seen in the video, the engine of increasing productivity is certified seeds of improved varieties. The petrol or the fuel for increasing productivity is fertilizer. And I'm glad that the bank has decided to intervene, to mitigate the impact of the Ukraine war by processing $1.3 billion very quickly to support our regional member countries. We also expect another $200 million to come from bilateral donors. This is all good. And I'm really happy. I'm very proud of the bank leadership, Dr. Adishina, for doing this. But you see, we cannot live from one crisis to another. We cannot have all these ad hoc, interventions. We must have market-based, private sector-led, robust input distribution systems. We must have systems that work, level playing fields that every company interested in selling seeds or selling inputs can come in and make a profit. The market is there. We have a huge market. Market is there. It's not a problem of market now. So this morning, I just want to very, very quickly, make some opening remarks. And the first thing I'd like to talk about is how do we build market-led, private sector, led input distribution system, particularly seed systems. The second thing I'd like to talk about is we need to strengthen the institutions that oversee the regulation and also, the policies and the laws of seed systems. We need to strengthen those institutions. And lastly, we have to make sure the private sector can come in by providing the enabling environment. And enabling environment, three things very quickly is the credit, access to credits. Private sector requires credits for them to be able to, conduct their business. Second thing is logistics. They require efficient logistics. And then lastly, they require laws and regulations that create a level playing ground. So very quickly, I will just start by talking very briefly about market-led or private sector-led input distribution systems. We all know that many of these plant varieties that have been produced today are a result of many years of research, both in the public sector and also in the private sector, research that has been done. And we also know that the private sector would like to at least benefit from the long investments in producing these new varieties. So how do they benefit? We have to have a system of protection of what we call breeders' rights, plant variety product protection, where we need to protect the rights of the breeders. So If a soybean variety that has been produced by Don Mario in Argentina is brought into Africa, we know that soybean is a self-pollinating crop, so the farmer can actually reuse his own seeds. We have to find a way for Don Mario, the private sector company, to be able to protect its IP, the intellectual property rights in that variety. So countries must have a way whereby farmers or users of that seed can, use the seeds and at the same time pay, some sort of premium, so some sort of technology fee for that variety. It is very, very important. Otherwise, there is no incentive for the private sector to continue to improve on the genetics of those new varieties. Don Mario has varieties that produce 4 to 5 tons of soybean. That's incredible yields per hectare. But it's a result of long years of research. So number one, if you're going to have market-based, private sector-led, there must be IP protection. We must protect, the intellectual property rights of those varieties. Secondly, we have to also ensure that there is a level playing field. The private sector should be able to come in and invest without fear, knowing that nobody can go and sell grain and call it hybrid seeds and get away with it. Such people will be punished. So we have to strengthen the institutions that regulate the production and enforcement of laws on production of certified seeds. This requires both the personnel, the capacity of personnel in the seed councils, the national seed councils, and also the physical infrastructure, laboratories for testing germination rates, for testing purity of seeds, be strengthened. That is why I believe very strongly that the crisis in Ukraine should not be allowed to go to waste. Africa should use that as a wake-up call to actually build robust national seed councils that regulate seed systems, particularly production of certified seeds across the continent. Nobody can sell rubbish and call it seed. And so that the private sector's investments are protected. This is very, very important. And thirdly, we must have access to credit for all the input value chains, from the seed companies that produce the seeds, to the agro dealers that sell it to farmers themselves. There has to be input finance systems. Either it could be advanced, credit given to farmers and agro dealers by seed companies, but for that seed companies also require, financing, or it could be, guarantee risk sharing schemes, credit guarantee schemes, whereby the farmer or the agro dealer or the seed companies can secure finance that is guaranteed. Part of it is guaranteed by either a government agency or like NIRSAL in Nigeria, Nigerian incentive-based risk-sharing cultural lending facility, or other forms of facility. This is a very, very important, because without the credit, how can you stock seeds as an agro dealer, or how can you give seeds on credit as a seed company to agro dealers? And for farmers, how can you invest in inputs if we don't have the credit? These three things I just mentioned, private sector led, input systems, strengthening institutions that regulate production of certified seeds, and also credit for all the actors in the input distribution chain are so important. That's what's going to help Africa build a robust input systems that can raise productivity, ensure that farmers can have access to the latest technology, and also ensure that productivity is up and we can build competitive value chain. The program TAAT, or Technologies for African Agricultural Transformation, is doing just that. We are working with the private sector, working with agro dealers, working with governments, through the policy compact, to ensure that we have a strong market-based, strong inputs, and strong private sector-led input distribution system. TAAT is going to work with the private sector very closely, and I'm happy that this is a third forum that we are gathering everybody together in the same room to discuss what can be done and what needs to be done. Africa should not have to rely on people who are at war for its food supply. Thank you so much, Nkiru. I'm back to you. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Dr. Fregene. I think you've really been very clear on what the next steps for us. Yeah, you're right. Somebody is not going to spend years in development of seeds, and the person next door is just going to make money off it. So the policy compact is really has to really do a lot of work for things to move on. Now I'm going to take the Q&A. Does anybody have any questions for Dr. Fregene? This is a big opportunity to talk to him, because if you're trying to get an appointment with him at the bank, so you've been given a good opportunity to ask him all the questions that need to be asked, but related to what he has talked about, please, so we don't go off script.
I see Ibrahim Assar has raised his hands.
Oh, yes, but we told them to chat, because we don't want people, the 1 minute question will now take 2 minutes for it.
Okay.
Okay, Dr. Dashel has, what countries in Africa already have good seed policies?
Okay, thanks so much, Dr. Bashir. So countries actually have very strong seed policies, and one of those such countries is South Africa, and followed by Zambia. I'm sure most of you know that Zambia is a larger, outside South Africa and North Africa, Zambia is the largest producer of certified seeds on the continent. About some 50,000 tons are produced. So Zambia has a pretty strong seed sector and also seed law. Other countries include Kenya. Kenya also has a fairly good seed sector, and also Nigeria. Nigeria also has it can be improved, but Nigeria does have strong seed policy. You're very laughing. So and then of course the countries in North Africa, Egypt, Tunisia, and then Morocco. One of the acid test of a strong seed sector is a thriving input distribution system. If you see input distribution system that is very strong, and most often those countries have very good. On the other extreme, you have countries that don't even have seed laws at all. So anybody can come and sell anything. Yeah. So and anyway, that's the short answer to the long answer to a short question.
All right. Thank you. So basically, if your own country doesn't have a good seed policy, at least there are countries around you can go and start working on your seeds with. If policy is what is stopping you as an investor coming into invest in seed production in Africa. Salfila has, what is the mechanism of the private sector support by the African Development Bank? I guess it means in seed production.
Right. No, thank you. I just also forgot that Tanzania, my old colleague, Regina Kapinga, just reminded me that Tanzania also has a...
Oh, yeah.
Tanzania is a breadbasket on the African continent, so it definitely, as I said before, one of the parameters to judge, if how strong a system is, just to see crop production. Tanzania, Cameroon also, they all have very strong systems. Well, okay. So first of all, mechanism of support private sector support by the African Development Bank. Like you all know, we make loans to private sector companies, mostly large ones. But recently, the bank got 100 million Canadian dollars to what we call the African Catalytic Financing Mechanism. This is now to SMEs. Yeah, and this is going to be blended finance. It's also going to be credit guarantees to SMEs. So that's one of the new things that the bank is doing. It will, in the next couple of months, there'll be much more information on that. But also the private sector is being supported through TAAT, and one of the ways we're doing that is what we're discussing today. TAAT is trying to help the private sector seed companies with capacity building. We saw that for wheat, and maize in wheat in Ethiopia and Sudan, and maize in Southern Africa and Kenya. so helping them with capacity building and also helping them with breeder seeds, giving them breeder seeds for them to be able to produce for foundation, or foundation seeds for them to be able to produce certified seeds. So the third way we are supporting the private sector is through the policy and the regulatory part. Like you mentioned, the TAAT policy compact is really working very hard to create an enabling environment. And then back to you, Nkiru. Yeah.
Thank you. I'll take the last question because this one directly impacts me. How do we balance the needs of the farmer while trying to incentivize the plant breeders? That means, how can we, the farmers, afford the seeds after everything is done?
Yeah. You are right. And Tony, this is a very good question. You see, it has to be win-win. The farmer must benefit, must win, and the seed company must benefit and win. So there are three things we have to do for both the farmer and the seed company to win. Number one is that there has to be a policy environment. Farmers have been sold bad seed in the past. We have been sold grain, and they use it. I'm sorry for so many farmers, because they pay double the price of if I was to buy grain for seeds, only for that seeds to have 40% germination, or only for that seeds to have it's a mix of varieties. That's the first thing. Really? Okay. That's the very first thing. We must make sure that there is a level playing field. Nobody should sell rubbish to farmers. The second thing we must make sure is that there are functioning value chains. You see, if I know that I will sell my crop for a good price, then I'm willing to invest in seeds and fertilizer, because I know that at the end of the day, there's a fair return for my investment. So there has to be functioning value chains from, the off-taker, either a big processing company or an aggregator, or some governments, floor price, for commodities to ensure that the price doesn't fall off. The bottom of the doesn't fall off for me by the time I go to the market. So functioning value chains, extremely important. And the last thing is credit for both. For you to be able to buy seeds, as a farmer, and to use it, you were able to access some credit. Credit is so important. People gloss over it, but the truth is that without credit, I don't see how anybody can actually practice modern agriculture. It's costly. You have to invest, and if you have a market that functions and you're sure of your return on investment, then you can pay your loan. So everything is just intertwined, interconnected. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Dr. Fregene. I'm sorry we can't take any more questions, but we are recording all the questions in the chat, and we'll always give you feedback. Once you've registered for the forum, you'll get a feedback on all the questions. Thank you so much, Dr. Fregene. I really appreciate your time.
Nice seeing you guys again. Bye.
Nice seeing you. Thank you. Now we're going to play the TAAT video.
Of the African Development Bank's Feed Africa strategy. With over 100 scientifically proven technologies, we are the go-to investor and government opportunity portal in Africa. Bringing new technologies to you, together with access to markets in 31 countries, your return on investment is far more secure. Africa spends $46 billion on food imports every year. TAAT is changing that, technology by technology, reducing the need for input and increasing the effectiveness of those that are needed. In Zimbabwe, for example, we show that fall armyworm pesticides used to treat drought-tolerant maize seeds are a very good investment to protect the crop against this dangerous pest. While in Zambia, we introduced new maize seed varieties, some of which increase yield from 5 tons to 14 tons per hectare. In Sudan, we trained over 1,000 farmers to double wheat yields.
has to be a market where African companies can play. They have access to the skills, the technology, the infrastructure, but also the finance for them to be able to play.
TAAT has cutting-edge, proven technologies, amongst others, in seed genetics, mechanization, land management, and animal husbandry. These are some of the areas in which you can invest. Wheat, maize, rice, cassava, sorghum millet, orange flesh sweet potato, high iron beans, aquaculture, water management, and soil fertility technologies. We've looked critically and selected the best technologies for scale, realizing that clustering technologies for optimal results for farmers is the way to go. We thus offer bundles of technologies that can offer greater results when clustered with others. Greater results means greater social impact and increased financial success for farmers and investors. So, whether you are a Ministry of Agriculture, a private investor, an NGO, or a multilateral organization working with farmers, talk to us today to hear how we add value and bring proven cutting-edge technologies to help achieve your goals. Invest in African agriculture. Invest in transformation. TAAT, Technology for African Agriculture Transformation.
Thank you. A video is worth 1,000 words, so a picture is worth 1,000 words. So at least that video has highlighted the things that TAAT is doing in the industry. Now I'm introducing Dr. Alfred Dixon, Interim Head of TAAT Clearinghouse, to tell us about TAAT. Dr. Alfred, are you here?
Hello? Yeah, good morning.
Good morning. Nice to see you. All right.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very happy to make some.
Can you put on your video if that's fine?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Is that okay?
We can't see your head. We can only see your chair. So bend your screen. Wonderful. Yes.
Yeah, that's good.
Thank you.
Yeah. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very happy to participate in this TAAT Investment Forum. And I'm also delighted to see so many people attending this forum. I think I can recall about 109. It shows how important this TAAT Investment Forum is to people, and particular to people in the private sector. And besides, this one is focusing more on seed systems. I, for one, being a breeder, a cassava breeder for that matter, over 34 years, I'm very interested to participate. And TAAT is trying to ensure that the benefits of what we have been producing gets to the smallholder farmers through the national and regional governments integrating the private sector to deliver, while at the same time, through their distribution, they will make sales. And for me, that's what I see the TAAT Investment Forum is actually promoting. As Dr. Martin Fregene has said, also a breeder, cassava breeder like myself, we want to see a very robust seed distribution system in Africa. And TAAT is really in a position to catalyze that distribution and sale of seeds so that smallholder farmers have access to these hundreds of varieties that both the public and private breeders have been producing in Africa. Also, we have to ensure that we entice the private sector to get into the seed business. And that's what Dr. Fagine also alluded to. We have to ensure that we have a good licensing type of system for our institution and breeders who are producing these varieties, so that when the private sector have access to these materials, they can always benefit back from what they sell to the small farmers. But that will promote the access of the varieties to the small farmer. There are many countries now whose seed systems are becoming great, particularly for the cereals in Africa. But we do know that the seed system for the vegetatively propagated crops are not as great as that of the cereals. And we in TAAT, we are trying to make sure that is promoted to become strong, just like for the cereals. And that's why we have TAAT vetted technologies like the semi-autotrophic hydroponics, which will work equally well for cassava, for sweet potato, for yams, and other potatoes. And we are promoting that type of technology in Africa. We do hope private sector can capitalize on such systems for producing particularly the early generation seeds, and then also able to get enough quantities of the certified seeds. But we need to do that so that the vegetatively propagated crops can also climb up. So, ladies and gentlemen, I am the interim head of the TAAT Clearinghouse, and we want to note that we must try to catalyze a very good and robust seed system in Africa. And through this Investors Forum, we should be able to do so. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, I thank you for participating in this Investors Forum, and we'll be having more from time to time. And I wish you'll be able to attend because each one will be on a different subject. So thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dixon. And now we're going to have Dr. Solomon Gizar of TAAT Clearinghouse speak to. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can you see me?
Yes, we can see you.
Thank you very much. My name is Solomon Asefa. I'm working for TAAT Clearinghouse in Cotonou. It's a great privilege to be part of in this very important investors forum and to have some pointers on the seed system and the seed availability in Africa. As you all know from the outset, one of the critical constraints in transforming African agriculture is the insufficient availability of access to and use of productivity enhancing climate resilient crop varieties. And new climate resilient crop varieties and associated integrated crop management technologies are key drivers for boosting productivity per unit area. And if accompanied by an efficient and effective seed system, would lead to a wider uptake and the realization of impact at scale across African countries. Seed remain a conduit for transferring agricultural innovation and innovation to farmers. Access to new and better agricultural technologies is the most fundamental element in the impact pathway within the research for development continuum. As you all are aware, the access, availability, and use of quality seeds of well-adapted and farmers' preferred variety and associated technologies is a key when we talk about productivity, nutritional security, and improving farmers' livelihood. Therefore, seed is a basis for agricultural transformation that we want to see it happen in Africa. However, today in Africa, national seed delivery systems operate under heterogeneous environments in terms of agroecology, farming system, crops, and markets. They face a broad range of constraints, including ineffective policy and regulatory framework, which is also a key challenge that we need to address while we are looking at a robust seed system. The other is inadequate institutional and organizational arrangements. This is also one of the key factors that is really limiting for the seed system to grow a robust and sustainable in African countries. The third is deficiencies in technical and infrastructure for seed production, processing, marketing, distribution, and quality assurance. This should be also one of the areas that we need to address as a systemic bottlenecks in Africa to make resilient and climate adaptive varieties available to farmers. And the fourth is lack of trained and skilled personnel, limiting technical and managerial capacity in the seed enterprise management. So we need these four key issues and challenges are very important really to transform the way we want seed to reach the smallholder farmers in sufficient quantity, quality, and at affordable price. While addressing the systemic seed system constraints in an integrated and holistic approach, the following are key important interventions which the TAAT is looking at working with the countries. These include develop a robust and vibrant seed system with a clear seed roadmap aligned with the country strategy by bringing together all concerned stakeholders and seed sector partners into the wheat system that we develop in each country. To make this happen, we need to create enabling environments with proactive policies addressing systemic problems such as policy, regulatory, institutional, and technical constraints that hinder the seed sector development and which is not consistent with the global seed industry. The third is harmonizing regulations and technical measures addressing variety release, protection, seed certification schemes, sanitary, phytosanitary measures, and which should be according to the standard of international seed trade. And the fourth is we need to encourage private sector. And this is a forum which I'm very much also would like to emphasize. We need to create and encourage private sector to engage in seed production through appropriate policies and incentive and access to finance. And in this regard, we need to also support fast-track variety development, registration, release, and accelerated seed multiplication. As you all know today, we have sufficient amount of improved varieties in most of African crops available that can bring productivity 2 to 4-fold in Africa compared to the productivity range that we have today. But because of lack of fast-tracking variety release, registration, and their accelerated multiplication, the seeds are not reaching to the farmers. So building this robust system, integrating with the release and multiplication scheme, we can make our farmers benefit from the new varieties, the climate resilient varieties, and increase their productivity. And we need to build as well the capacity of national programs, especially for early generation seed production. Our national research programs should have the capacity in terms of skill, resources to produce sufficient quantity of breeder seeds, pre-basic seeds, and certified seeds so that this is available for the private sector to produce in mass for certified seed production that can be readily available to farmers. In this regard, we need to support the private sector also engagement and their capacity, technical capacity, infrastructure capacity in certified seed production so that they deliver to the farmers with the right amount in sufficient quantity and at affordable price. And having said this, I want to emphasize also our farmers should also get access to finance to adopt seeds of climate resilient improved varieties so that our farmers with their hard work can benefit from productivity and can ensure that Africa can be a continent that can feed itself and a continent that can able to compete in the global market by producing surplus quantity for export to the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Solomon. Thank you so much for your great presentation. Now we're going to have Dr. John Derrera, Head Excellence in Breeding Program.
Thank you so much. I'll try to bring I've got a few slides that I have here just to illustrate what we are doing in excellence in breeding to encourage varieties to move to the farmers. Can I put the slides on, Chairperson?
Yes, if you can share your screen.
Okay, I'm trying now, just checking if I can share the screen. I hope you can see my screen now.
Yes, we can see your screen.
Thank you so much. I'm going to talk about new variety development through the CG system and of course, excellence in breeding. Excellence in breeding is just an initiative that we have in the CGs where we are trying to, as much as possible, to improve and modernize our breeding processes so that we can increase the genetic gains in all our crop varieties and also for effective delivery of these products to the farmers in collaboration with the private sector and the national cultural seed systems in place. For the 5 minutes that I have this morning, I thought I would just pull out a case study of the work that we are doing in soybean in collaboration with Soybean Innovation Lab and IITA. We are testing a pilot new soybean seed system model for Africa. In this model, we have got a large number of collaborators that is ranging from the IITA, Soybean Innovation Lab, and the private sector. We put all our varieties together for testing across Africa in what we call Pan-Africa variety trials. And from there, we take the varieties through the product management model, which starts from IITA. It starts with us constituting a very efficient product allocation committee. Dr. Dixon, who is here, is part of that committee at IITA that quickly looks at the data coming in and will move the varieties to the private sector so that they can reach the farmer quickly. In order to do this, IITA has appointed a product manager for all our grain crops, that is soybean, maize, and cowpeas. The idea is to make sure that we do proper licensing and the commercialization of these varieties. And we are trying in this model to collect the royalty that will come and fund the soybean program sustainably into the future. So we just say in a model, for example, if we were to raise $400,000, that amount would be sufficient to maintain the basics of a soybean breeding program that will deliver new varieties every year and feed into the African agricultural system from east to west. We've tested that there is a huge opportunity to do that because most of the private sector companies are not investing in soybean R&D because of seed retention. I'm sure Dr. Martin Fregin has just talked about it, the IP issues impeding investments in R&D. So as a public breeding program, we say, okay, if IITA develop these varieties and license them to the small to medium scale enterprises across Africa, we can find a quicker way of getting varieties to the farmers. And also it's sustainable in that the royalty comes back into the breeding programs. So we've put together a number of varieties and 13 companies have come up with interests across Africa to license these varieties. As you can see there, we've got a number of companies coming from the east side of Africa and also in West Africa. So it's throughout sub-Saharan Africa, from Southern, East, and West Africa. About 13 companies are participating in this model. In the model, we are just testing to see how much seed should be sold to support the program at 400,000 investment at different levels of royalties. So what we find is that if we are to sell about 4,000 metric tons of seed every year across Africa using this model, and royalties charged at 5%, we can raise 400,000 K to support the soybean program. If we reduce the royalty price to about 3%, we need to sell about 7,000 metric tons. So we are pursuing various models that are affordable to the companies and also that will make the soybean production sustainable across the continent. In discussions with various seed companies that are participating, they are quite comfortable with this model. So about 10 to 13 companies are participating, and we find that 7,000 metric tons annual sales by these companies and paying royalty at about 3% to sustain a breeding program as an example. So I've talked about the Pan-Africa variety trials. It covers all the countries in East, West, and Central Africa, where we test varieties together. We share the costs across 24 countries. 168 lines of soybean have been tested, and out of that, about 15 new varieties have been extracted, passed through our variety list committee, and are in the national performance trials across Africa in the continent. And we are pursuing how we can further get more efficient delivery of the variety through seed harmonization strategies. Just a summary, this new seed system model in Africa is potential to generate operational funding for soybean breeding, which will lead to continual supply of improved varieties and increase varietal turnover in productive farmers' fields. So that's one example that we are working on. We started this thing in 2021, and like I said, about 15 varieties are under registration process. And we expect by 2025-26 to start getting royalties coming in. And then we would want to extend the same to cowpeas, for example. So thank you so much. I thought in 5 minutes I can just do this illustration. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Derera. I know you scientists like to share so much information, so we're glad you were able to keep it to 5 minutes and not get some of us who are not scientists lost. Just a quick, Dr. Solomon Giza has been appointed as a substantive head of the clearinghouse. Congratulations, Dr. Solomon. Welcome on board, and we look forward to your work to continue impacting wheat farmers in the public space.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And I'm very happy and I'm very interested to really work on this investors forum to promote seed to reach to the smallholder farmers by developing a robust and vibrant seed system in Africa. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Solomon. Now we're going to go into the presentations on seed innovation and technologies. The first one is going to be TAAT in the world of wheat.
In the world of wheat, with over 700 million metric tons consumed worldwide in the 21-22 marketing year, the global demand for wheat increases by over 4 million metric tons annually. It is the largest cultivated crop with an estimated area of over 220 million hectares across the globe. Annually, Sub-Saharan Africa imports more than 15 million tons of wheat worth over $3.6 billion annually. It is an area ripe for investment and begging new technologies to improve yields and combat climate change. While the population of Africa increased by 32% between 2007 and 2019, the continent's wheat imports increased 68% over the same period, surging to 47 million tons from 27.3 million tons. And with new varieties of wheat that can be successfully grown on the continent, we at TAAT have the technology to produce locally with heat-resistant wheat varieties. A number of African countries have favorable conditions to grow these new varieties. Sudan, Rwanda, Burundi, Ethiopia, Kenya, Madagascar, Tanzania, and Uganda among those that are most promising. TAAT's wheat compound is led by the International Center for Agriculture Research in dry areas, commonly known as ICADA, with activities in 7 countries, including the East African Highlands, the Southern African Plateau, and the Sahel. Activities in the Sahel are of particular importance as the development of new wheat crop varieties permits irrigated wheat production during the cool season. TAAT's wheat technology toolkit features many new wheat varieties with heat and drought tolerance and stem rust resistance. These traits contribute to the expansion of the wheat industry in Africa. We are also fast-tracking the next generation variety releases through national programs while offering expertise in land preparation, low-cost mechanization, and management of soil fertility, weeds, pest and disease, and compact flour milling systems. Some wheat technologies are suitable for large-scale farming, while our smaller-scale outgrower technologies can accommodate wheat rotation into existing cropping systems. This is how we at TAAT are poised to reduce the current massive wheat imports to Africa. So, whether you are a government, a private investor, an NGO, or a multilateral organization, talk to us today if you are interested in increasing wheat harvests. Invest in African agriculture. Invest in transformation. TAAT, Technology for African Agriculture Transformation.
Thank you. When we listened to Dr. Fregena, he mentioned something which is true. China, India, and Russia make up 3 largest producers of wheat. And when you add Ukraine, that's even another part. But the one Ukraine, Russia has affected wheat exports from Russia and India. And India still has a ban on wheat export because of rising food costs in their own country. Everybody is practicing protectionism now when it comes to food. A hungry man is an angry man, as we always say in Nigeria. The good thing is that these new varieties that they have, heat drought resistance, and allow for existing crop rotation are available for farmers in Africa now, based on the video we'll see. We have 2 pitches to that effect. We're going to talk about the 2 varieties, and farmers listening or investors listening will know which one works for them. Now we're going to play the video for the heat and drought tolerant wheat variety.
Tolerant wheat varieties for wheat cultivation in high temperature regions. So what's the product? This investment opportunity is a seed series that contains over 30 weed seed varieties that combine high yield potential with heat and drought tolerance. These seed lines are characterized by early harvest maturity, only 90 to 100 days, and resistance to extreme temperatures and low rainfall, and good bread-making characteristics with 14 to 15% protein content. So what problem does this investment opportunity solve? Wheat production is limited by heat and drought stress. A 1 to 4 degree rise in temperature decreases the productivity of wheat by 3 to 34%. All wheat growing areas in sub-Saharan Africa are experiencing increasingly frequent periods of extreme temperature and reduced rainfall due to climate change. Lastly, like some other cereals, wheat is prone to disease and pests. Which investor is this suitable for? If you are a small-scale farmer or a large-scale commercial farmer, this opportunity is for you. So what are the selling points? 75% increase in grain yield potential with less than 200 millimeters rainfall and heat stress, compared to common varieties which show a 50% yield loss under the same conditions. Reduced water requirements. Resistance to pest and disease like yellow and stem rust. Wheat cultivation can continue in all current growing areas of sub-Saharan Africa, despite extreme temperatures and reduced rainfall occurring more frequently due to climate change. These varieties increase the possibility of wheat cultivation in non-traditional locations, such as dryland regions in the Sahel, which are characterized by temperatures of 30 to 40 degrees Celsius and rainfall below 250 millimeters under irrigated conditions. What's the evidence? These varieties are already in successful use in Ethiopia, Mali, Mauritania, Niger, Nigeria, Senegal, Sudan, and Zambia. Let's talk money. Seed costs are about $35 to $45, while fertilizer costs will be $45 to $155. Pesticides, $37 to $105. So the total cost per hectare would be anything between $162 to $305. That's a minimum investment of $162 or a maximum investment of $305. In return, you will be able to harvest between 4 and 5 additional tons per hectare. With this potential increase in yield, this opportunity is ripe for your investment.
Thank you very much. Now we're going to put up the pitch. For the heat and drought tolerant wheat varieties. We can see from the pitch that this seed line contains over 30 varieties that combine high yield potential and drought resistance. With global warming, this is a welcome relief to farmers in Africa. Lots of places get less than 200 millimeters of rainfall. But even with that, there's a 75% increase in grain yields. And the heat stress is less while compared with other varieties, which show a 50% yield loss under the same conditions. For me, this makes an investment very worthwhile. So we're solving the problem of heat and drought. We're solving the problem of low productivity or low yields with this variety, and there are 30. So in between the 30, you'll be able to find the one that works best for you in your own environment. Now we're going to put up the next pitch. The next pitch is the Haitian fly resistant wheat varieties. Haitian fly is a fly or the larva affects some wheat. So they've developed a wheat variety that's resistant to this fly. And they use natural genes that activate a biochemical defense response from the larva of the Haitian fly. Yet, apart from the resistance to it, there's also an increased yield in production. So it's a win-win situation. You're resistant to the Haitian fly, and still you have an increase in your production because, I mean, we know what pesticides do to what we plant. So we're solving multiple problems. And the good thing is that it's already in North Africa. This seed is already being used in North Africa. So we're not selling you something that we want to use you as a guinea pig to try. It's already been in use and people are making money from it. There's an increase in yield, 5.5 to 7.1 tons per hectare if you're using this Haitian fly resistant wheat variety. Now we're going to play you a video, TAAT in the world of rice.
TAAT in the world of rice. The global demand for rice is staggering. The most widely grown rice variety is the staple food of an estimated 3.5 billion people across the globe. In Africa, rice has been cultivated for more than 3,000 years and is the second most important source of calories. The African rice, Oryza glaberrima, is unique to Africa and is an integral part of many cultures and communities. Rice is grown in about 40 African countries by more than 35 million smallholder farmers. It is the fastest growing staple food in terms of consumption, with demand growing at more than 6% per year. While Africa constitutes only 13% of the world population, it accounts for 32% of world rice imports, making the continent a big player in international rice trade. Local rice production covers only 60% of current demand in sub-Saharan Africa, resulting in imports of almost 15 million tons per year, costing almost 6 billion. Increasing rice production is thus a win-win scenario for investors and governments alike, with ready local markets while also increasing food security and reducing imports. TAAT's Rice Compact is led by Africa Rice and has established partnerships in 16 countries. Our rice technology toolkits are based on the dissemination of 3 new variety lines: New Rice for Africa, commonly called Nerica, Advanced Rice Varieties for Africa, called Arica, and Oryx, which is aromatic varieties, with over 68 varieties of these lines released to date. Our rice varieties include both wet and upland varieties, and bio-fortified golden rice, and our baskets of rice technologies includes water management and irrigation, motorized weeders, crop management, even an app for smartphones called Rice Advice. Also, harvesting, threshing, polishing, and other processing, including parboiling and recycling rice straws as cooking briquettes. We have technologies covering them all. The investment potential is impressive, as is the opportunity to increase food security. Talk to us today, whether you are a private investor, a Ministry of Agriculture, an NGO, or a multilateral organization working with rice farmers. Invest in transformation. Invest in African agriculture. TAAT, Technologies for African Agriculture Transformation.
Rice is a staple in so many African countries. But from the video, we can see that there's a 40% gap between supply and demand of rice, which is 15 million tons per year, 15 million tons per year. So there's such a large opportunity for us in rice production in Africa. We have two pitches, all highlighting new varieties to help bridge that gap. The first pitch we're going to show you now is advanced rice varieties for Africa, the Areca lines.
Commonly referred to as Areca. So what's the investment opportunity here? TAAT has bred high-performing Areca varieties from locally adapted hybrid rice varieties. This new generation is the successor of Nerica rice varieties. But unlike its predecessor, these varieties have multiple improved traits, making them ideal to respond to challenges that are faced by farmers in different agroecologies in sub-Saharan Africa. So what's the problem with ordinary rice? Common rice varieties are vulnerable to disease and pest and abiotic stresses. Production is also limited to the rainy season, and there is a high African market dependency on Asian rice imports. More imports actually means more opportunity for you, the local entrepreneur. Limited farmer access to rice seed varieties adapted to current climatic conditions. So who can make money here? Seed growers, small-scale farmers, commercial farmers, and community-based rice growers. Why invest in this product? 1. Disease and stress tolerance. 2. Compared to Nerica 19, which is widely cultivated, the increase in yield for Areca 1 offers 20 to 44% increase. Areca 2 offers 50 to 111% increase, while Areca 3 offers between 2 and 69% increase. In addition, these varieties are suitable for both rain-fed and irrigated rice cropping systems. Finally, farmers can choose the variety for their growing conditions. Is it really successful? The answer is a big yes. It is already in use in 13 countries, stretching from Gambia in West Africa to Ethiopia in East Africa. But show me the money. Seed costs an average of only $1 per kg, while planting, maintenance, harvesting, and winnowing can cost about $350 per hectare. But the return on investment, you get an average of 40% increase in yield. Is this easy to use? Sure. Areca varieties are cultivated exactly like common rice varieties and can be planted manually or mechanically or through transplantation of seedlings. Take advantage of this investment opportunity today.
Now we're going to show you the pitch for the advanced rice varieties for Africa, Areca lines. You can see from the pitch and the video that these varieties are high performing and locally adapted. They have high yield potential. They are resistant to diseases like blast, bacterial leaf blight, rice yellow mottle virus. and they withstand abiotic stresses like drought, flooding, iron toxicity, cold and silence. Basically, it's resistant to drought. You can grow them in dry areas. It's resistant to flooding. You can grow them in wet areas. So really, you have a choice. And 40% increase in yield when cultivated. The good thing about all the varieties is that they don't limit you to one. There's so many varieties within the Arabica. And so you can choose the one that best fits the environment in which you are. If you have more of drought, you take the one that's more drought resistant. If you have more of flood, you take the one that's more flood resistant. Now we're going to give you another pitch. Aromatic rice for Africa, Orelix variety. When I was growing up, foreign rice wasn't common. So we grew up eating a locally variety called the Abakaliki rice, which is rice produced in Ebonyi State, southeast of Nigeria. When you were boiling Abakaliki rice, everybody on the street knew it. And it wasn't because of the sweet aroma, or on the contrary. So we used to eat it because we had no choice. That's where varieties like the Orelix come in. There are sets of 6 varieties which are highly flavored for their aroma. I know a lot of we Africans like imported rice because of the sweet aroma. You have the ones that are jasmine flavored and all that flavor. Now we're solving the problem for you. We have those aromas. We have different aromas, so based on your own taste. But in addition to the aroma, the yields range from 6.5 tons to 8 tons per hectare. And some varieties even offer the possibility of 2 harvests in a year. That is really so good because there are lots of things that will grow, and because we're rain-fed and all that, we only do 1 harvest. Now having the opportunity of planting, harvesting, and being able to plant again in the same year, that is such a plus for us. So now, okay, look at the return on investment, 30 to 80%. I think it's really makes a good choice for farmers, for investors, for seed multiplication companies to be able to do that. Now we're going to play another video for you, TAAT in the world of maize.
TAAT in the world of maize. Maize is the most widely grown staple food crop in sub-Saharan Africa, occupying more than 33 million hectares each year. In vast swathes of sub-Saharan Africa, maize accounts for 40% of cereal production, with more than 80% used as staple food. The population in Africa is projected to double between 2010 and 2050, which means a doubling of the current market demand for maize. So, if this is a staple, high-priority crop in your country, talk to us today. We at TAAT have proven technologies to increase maize production. Our maize science partner is the African Agriculture Technology Foundation, active in 23 sub-Saharan countries. Working with TAAT, specialist maize research scientists create and test new technologies that optimize maize production. Our maize technologies cover genetics, inputs, post-harvest handling and storage, management and communication systems, and are suitable for both small-scale and commercial farmers. Of these, we've currently identified 10 for their investment and scaling potential. So whether you are a government, an investor, an NGO, or a multilateral organization interested in increasing maize production, we have the technologies for you. So contact us today. Invest in African agriculture. Invest in transformation. TAAT, Technology for African Agriculture Transformation.
Maize. Maize is 40% of cereal produce in Africa, and 80% is used as staple food, and is actually the most important source of carbohydrate in sub-Saharan Africa. Maize is also a big input into livestock, with a high percentage of poultry farms, at least I know for Nigeria, closing down due to rising costs of maize. And that's because we depend a lot on imported maize. So if we can actually produce some of the maize, or most of the maize we consume in Africa, that will go a long way to actually helping us to solve the food crisis. We have two pitches featuring improved varieties of maize with increased yield and increased nutritional value. The first one is the imazapre-resistant maize for striga management, IR maize. This improved variety is modified to protect against the striga weed, which has been known to reduce maize yield by 30 to 80%. As most farmers know, a weed is anything really that competes with whatever you grow for nutrients. And this striga weed actually affects some maize variety. So with this, we're solving the problem of the parasitic weed, reduction of maize yield by 30 to 80% when we use this variety. This is initial investment you need to make and the added value, $200 to $1,100 per hectare. The next picture we're going to show you is the golden maize varieties, vitamin high provitamin A. This is a provitamin A range variety. Vitamin A deficiency causes night blindness, which is a big problem in Africa, especially children. 50% of children actually between the ages of 6 months and 5 years in sub-Saharan Africa suffer from vitamin A deficiency. And now we're saying that 80% of the maize, that 80% maize is used as staple food, meaning that if people can eat this golden maize variety, a lot of families can at least get their vitamin A enriched food. But apart from the high nutritional value, there's a 10 to 20% increase in yield per hectare. So you're solving a nutritional problem and you're also making more money from it. So if maize really is your staple food in Africa, I've covered it for vitamin A fortification. Now we're going to play a video, TAAT in the world of cassava.
TAAT in the world of cassava. Global consumption of cassava starch alone was over 40 billion in 2018 and is projected to reach over 65 billion by 2026. Sub-Saharan Africa produces more than 50% of the world's cassava, which is also known as manioc, tapioca, and yuca, amongst others. But mainly it's a subsistence crop. Consumed by over 500 million Africans every day, it is the second most important source of carbohydrate in sub-Saharan Africa after maize. A staple for many, cassava has been declared by African heads of state in 2003 as a poverty fighter. Cassava's productivity, sadly, has remained low, less than 10 tons per hectare in Africa, compared to Asia, where productivity is more than 20 tons per hectare. Africa is the world's leading cassava producer, but the crop is still widely regarded as food for the poor, rather than its potential as a substrate for value-added food and industrial starch production. Thus, few cassava products from Africa are traded on world markets, and we at TAAT are changing that whilst fighting poverty and malnutrition at home by intensifying cassava production and processing. TAAT's Cassava Compact is led by IITA with partnerships in 15 countries in Central, East, Southern, and West Africa. We focus on cassava transformation using a holistic and multi-stakeholder approach that brings on board researchers, extension service providers, development practitioners, input dealers, information service providers, processors, and farmers across the entire cassava value chain. Through scientific research on a number of serious virus diseases, tolerant varieties, and management systems are now in place. These new varieties are also selected on the basis of their higher dry matter and starch content, and some are pro-vitamin A biofortified. Our technologies also improve post-harvest management, storage, and transformation, reducing losses. Talk to us today if you are interested in investing in the opportunity to double cassava production continentally, or if, as a government or multilateral organization working with cassava farmers, you wish to grasp the opportunity to make impact on poverty alleviation. We at TAAT are leading African cassava transformation. Invest in transformation. Invest in African agriculture. TAAT, Technology for African Agriculture Transformation.
Cassava. Cassava is the second most important source of carbohydrates in Africa after maize. Unfortunately, while Asia is producing over 20 tons per hectare, we're still producing less than 10 tons per hectare. And really, some of it, or I think even for me, I would say most of it, the quality of cassava seeds available in the market. As I say, and I keep reiterating, farming is like computer programming. Garbage in, garbage out. Bad seed, bad harvest. So TAAT is trying to help farmers solve that problem. For cassava, to show you how important it is, we'll have 4 pitches for you in the cassava space. We'll have a video now for you, cassava video for high starch content.
TAAT brings you cassava varieties with high dry matter and starch content. So what's the problem? Cassava crops in sub-Saharan Africa are notorious for low root dry matter and low starch content. Then there's also the low yield. You as the investor should know that local supplies simply aren't meeting market demand, and the demand for cassava starch is very high, both locally and on the export market. What's our solution? Cassava varieties with high dry matter and starch content through a set of varieties known as Farmer's Pride, Ayaya, and Umukas. What are their benefits? Higher yield and quality, drought and pest resistance. This can produce low-cost flour and starch, which is in very high demand in the food processing industry. Also, up to 20% of wheat flour can be substituted by cassava flour, with no difference in taste, color, or texture, thus making it an excellent raw material for agri-food and industrial manufacturers. So how does this solve the problem? Usually, starch content is 64 to 72%. However, with our new varieties, starch content is 80 to 95%. This means better nutritional value and a higher market price. Who is this investment for? For both subsistence and commercial cassava producers. Also for commercial seed producers who can sell cuttings. Also for those who are in the business of selling cassava starch. So what's the cost? Marvelously, it's the same price as normal cassava cuttings. However, you need to invest in fertilizer inputs and ensure good crop and soil management practices to achieve the optimal yield. And what's the big win? Your return on investment will be 10 to 15% increase in dry root matter and starch content. Invest in cassava today.
Thank you. From the video, we have seen that this cassava variety. Now we're going to actually put up the pitch for the high quality cassava flour. Sorry, yes, for the, no, okay, yes, that's fine. So these are varieties with root dry matter contents of 40 to 45%. And they yield up to 35 tons per hectare. 35 tons per hectare, which is such an increase from what the farmers are growing now. And the good thing, like practically every seed variety we have talked about in different cropping, you have so many varieties. You have the farmer's pride, you have the yaya, you have the Lucas. So you choose the one that works for you based on the environment in which you find yourself. And it's solving the problem of low root dry matter, low supply for local and regional markets. The next pitch we're going to show you now is golden cassava varieties, provitamin A fortified. So basically, if maize is your staple food, we have you covered. If cassava is your staple food, we have you covered. I can't overemphasize the fact that vitamin A deficiency causes night blindness, affects children in sub-Saharan Africa. This variety of cassava, the golden cassava variety, is a cross between natural lines containing high levels of provitamin A and hybrid lines with higher yield potential, disease resistant, and drought tolerance. But the most important feature for me is that it is vitamin A fortified. And because of it, the variety is sold at a higher price in the market because of its nutritional value. So not only are you making money, you're also helping us to solve a problem in the marketplace. So now we have some time for some Q&A. As we said earlier, all the Q&A will be in the chat. Oh, I'm sorry. I just realized I was muted. We'll have some questions which are, Dr. Priyan? Okay. We'll have some questions which have been put in the chat. Which of the featured products are available in Kenya? Where can we get the cassava variety Ayaya in Nigeria? Just put in the questions in the chat. The scientists who are involved in this cassava production will come on the chat and give you the answers. All right, so just keep typing them. The scientists will come and give you the answers in the chat. And the ones that the scientists are not available to give you the answers, we're going to record every question in the chat, and we are going to still get back to you on the answers to them. So the good thing is that we're running ahead of schedule because everybody is doing things the right way. So now we're supposed to have an interaction with the seed associations. We're supposed to be talking to Mrs. Katrina Langa, technical manager to AFSTA. Is she available?
Good morning, a very good morning to you all. First of all, before I even start, I want to truly appreciate this opportunity. It's always a privilege to have the opportunity to sit down together with like-minded people, experts in the field, and to think together on how we all can, in our different ways, contribute Good morning, a very good morning to you all. First of all, before I even start, I want to truly appreciate this opportunity. It's always a privilege to have the opportunity to sit down together with like-minded people, experts in the field, and to think together on how we all can, in our different ways, contribute diligently to assuring that the African seed farmer is able to access high quality seed. Today, I will take you through some thoughts on where the meeting point or how we can together consolidate our efforts. I mean, from the private sector perspective as well as the CGIAR, and together have this mission and agenda of assuring quality seed to farmers, to the African farmers. So my name is Catherine Langat, and I'm the technical manager of the Africa Seed Trade Association, ASTRA. And my sincere apologies that I'm not able to join you physically, or rather to join you in the morning session, but allow me to just take you through some thoughts on this pre-record. Looking or considering what I was talking about, I want to slightly highlight the outline of what I will be talking about and what I will focus on in the next 10 minutes. So I will take you through the AFSTA membership, contribution of the seed sector to the discussion that is ongoing, and the role of the National Seed Association, and I'll just conclude in one slide. Now, looking at the membership of AFSTA, and I've shared with you the map of Africa, just to highlight, and I have indicated in green the countries that have members of AFSTA. And just before I even go into the membership, the Africa Seed Trade Association was established almost 2 decades, or rather more than 2 decades ago. And the offices are based in Nairobi, Kenya, where I sit. We are the representative of Africa's private seed industry. And currently the membership is in we have 70 members from 30 African countries, and additional 46 members from countries that are actually beyond Africa.
or across the globe. Now, specifically to the contribution of the seed sector to the discussion that is ongoing, or the discussion today, first I would like to recall the objectives of the technologies for African agricultural transformation, that is TAAT. It originated from the declared need to execute a bold plan to achieve rapid agricultural transformation across Africa through raising agricultural productivity. Such a bold statement, and such a bold statement, if I can put it that way. This led to the formulation by the Africa Development Bank of the Feed Africa, which is a strategy for African agricultural transformation. We as the seed sector, and represented again by AFSTAM, we are aligned not only to the strategy for African agricultural transformation, the Feed Africa agenda, but also with the objectives of the Comprehensive African Agricultural Development Program, so with the CAADP. And we are contributing, or our contribution comes in different ways, but I would like to just highlight 4 of those. One, our contribution comes in through eliminating extreme poverty, ending hunger and malnutrition, and I'll get into the details of how we do that, because it's just not, punchlines and bullet points highlighted, but we actually contribute towards that. Then turning Africa into a net food exporter and positioning Africa at the top of agricultural value chains where it has a comparative advantage. Now, the continent has a bigger seed market, which allows significant investment in the seed sector, and this essentially boosts seed trade. We as the sector are committed to ensuring the availability of quality seeds for all. And how do we realize this? The seed sector advocates what I like to refer to, not limiting the breeder's toolbox. And this can only be achieved by creating an enabling and regulatory environment for the technology used by what you are doing at the CGIAR and what we are doing as the private sector. Just having an environment that can enable the use of the technology. And not only that, but subsequently or later on in the value chain, be adopted by farmers. So the farmers are going to also benefit from the technology that we are all diligently working on. The seed sector sees such interactions with TAAT, IITA as crucial. And such interaction and such contributions, if I may use that word, with one main objective, and this is the objective of all of us, I believe, to bring added value to the African farmer, regardless of whatever crop they are cultivating. And how does the sector, continue this discussion, at least at the national level, at the continental level, at the regional level? We have developed, or we are in discussion with authorities at the national level, continental, regional level, where we are advocating consistently for the ease of movement of seeds across the border, which will ultimately improve the seed supply to farmers. And the seed sector specifically gears toward improving the competitiveness of the African seed industry in the global seed market. The key thing and the key point is ensuring an enabling environment. And I've talked about having an enabling environment, because we as a business, we as a private sector, we are a seed business, and it's important to have that enabling environment to facilitate access and availability to more performing varieties, which not only improves the farmer's yield, but also improves their livelihood. Ultimately, the seed sector not only considers, but is keen to contribute toward increased food production. That's very paramount. Secondly, reducing reliance on food imports. We have seen with what has happened in the past 2-3 years with COVID-19, and then with the war in Ukraine. I mean, we can only claim, or we can only work towards reducing reliance on food imports. 3, reducing poverty, and of course, creating jobs, especially for the African youth. With a growing population, there's an urgent need to contribute or to work towards creating even more jobs. So what is the role of the National Seed Association, you may ask? And here I'll just take you through some of the key things or the key highlights that we collaboratively and very closely work with the National Seed Associations to ensure that the mission, the vision, and the objective of assuring that the farmers have high quality seeds is reached. As you all know or can imagine, Africa is vast and unique. The issues in Ghana, in Nigeria, are not necessarily the issues that are experienced in Ethiopia, in Uganda. Same to, what is happening in Morocco. This is not the same with what is happening in South Africa, for example, in Zimbabwe and in Congo. I mean, these are very different, both climatically speaking, politically speaking, even, let me not go into culture, but I mean, Africa is vast and unique. And so we as African Seed Trade Association, how we are able to leverage or how we are able to, make sure that whatever we are discussing at the continental level trickles down to the national level, to the regional level, first to the national level, is the active engagement we have with the national governments through our members who are the National Seed Associations. So we work very closely with the National Seed Associations who further engage their national government. And this is definitely at a closer range. So with the continuous and active interaction with the National Seed Associations, our main focus remains making quality seeds available to all, improving crops, very importantly, contributing to a healthier lifestyle by developing healthy crops, not only healthy crops, but those with nutritional value added or nutritional value addition. Developing robust and resilient varieties that perform well under increasingly extreme and fast-changing weather conditions. And clearly, climate change is so evident. So we're trying to have climate smart or developing climate smart varieties. And as I draw my presentation into a conclusion, I'd like to just highlight that variety development takes a lot of resources, including time. Therefore, it will be beneficial if the members of AFSA not only use, but also access the germplasm varieties that are developed by the CGIAR. And this is not, a strange or out of the blue concluding remark, but there is already collaborative efforts that are in place with other international organizations. For example, I'll just take one example of the World Vegetable Center, whereby together with AFSTA, we have created, or we saw the birthing of the African Vegetable Breeding Consortium. And there's quite a lot of exchange in germplasm in varieties within this AVBC. Potentially, maybe we could consider, just food for thought, bilateral agreements between AFSTA and the CGIARs, or maybe a working group, just to make sure that at the end of the day, we ultimately have quality seeds available to the farmers. Thank you all for your attention. And it is my dream, or rather, shall I say, I'm looking forward to just like the availability, to seeing the availability and access of high quality seeds to all African farmers. I mean, looking at the mobile phone, I would say, even in the remotest, even in the remote part of Africa, whereby when there's rain, you cannot access by road, they have access, or they can easily get available phones. They have access to mobile phones. So it is a dream and looking forward to, or a desire to see that quality seeds should be available and accessible to all African farmers, just like the mobile phones. And thank you for your attention. And please, in case of any questions, feel free to write to me. My email address is catherine@afsta.org. And in case of any pertinent questions, do not hesitate to post them. And my colleague from the International Seed Federation can take on some of those. But in the meantime, the conversation continues, how to collaborate further, how to, have to work towards the agenda or the goal of assuring quality feed does not stop here, because and I wish to extend an invitation to the Africa Seed Trade Association Congress that is scheduled for next year in 2023, between actually 6th and 9th of March 2023 in Dakar, Senegal. So we can continue the discussion, but before March next year, feel free to drop me an email and we can pick it up. Thank you so much, and wishing you a nice remaining part of the meeting and a good day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Catherine. Any questions for Mrs. Catherine? Please put it in the chat. We'll give you 1 or 2 minutes to post your question. Or while you're getting your questions ready, we'll have Mr. Michael Keller talk. Mrs. Catherine will still be on when Mr. Keller finishes. The two of them can still take the question and answer. Mr. Keller, you're on the spotlight.
Yeah, thanks so much, and I'm very happy to engage with you, and it's a pleasure to be invited here as a second speaker for the private sector. I'm also happy to speak after Catherine, who really nicely explained the role of the African Seed Trade Association, but also somehow the vision, mission, and our openness to work together. I think I would like to make the call today. It's now or never. We have to work together. I think it's now or never where public authorities, public research institutes, international research institutes, but also the private sector, we need to find a way to address all the challenges we are facing. We know we have a lot on our plate. And I imagined at the beginning of the discussion, you raised all the challenges we face. We have hunger issue. We have climate change. That means how we can address this, and we need to be crystal clear on this. This is only to be addressed if we collaborate together. And collaborating together means also picking up together innovation. The International Seed Federation is representing over 8,000 companies acting in seeds. This is from breeding to production to trading. The International Seed Federation, like also African Seed Trade Association, represents the diversity of the private sector worldwide. The important one I would like to highlight here, because we are focusing here on Africa and Congo, I think it's for all of us, and I can make, this is a call also from the International Seed Federation, Africa, the collaboration and coordination in Africa is key for us. Let's be crystal clear. How many integrated seed companies we have in Africa? That means who is breeding, who is producing, and who is trading. Less than 20. Is this normal? No. Their needs are here. And when I'm speaking about needs, perhaps the vision of the International Seed Federation, it's similar to the vision of the African Seed Trade Association. And by the way, we are strongly coordinating together, and we have the same members, the national seed associations and the companies. We would like to see a world where quality seed is available and accessible to all to support sustainable agriculture and food security, sustainable agriculture and food security. But what is more important, and I think this is the topic also of today, what we are looking for is that all farmers have a seed choice. We need to address this topic. Too many farmers in Africa, but in other countries in the world also, have not the seed choice. What means seed choice? To choose the seed which fits the best the needs to the local area where they are farming. And I think this is also the specificity of the seed sector, which is different from other sectors, input sectors in agriculture. All seeds need and are locally adapted. That means there needs to be collaboration on the ground together. There will not be a seed produced somewhere in the northern hemisphere for the southern hemisphere. What we are looking for is to find the right solutions on the ground together. I saying here, do we start with breeding programs in Congo from one day to another? Will be difficult from the private sector because yes, we need an enabling business environment. And what means enabling business environment? Means also the whole regulatory framework. And I think there were lots of important reports published recently, and perhaps one for those who are interested was from the World Bank some years back on the enabling business environment in agriculture. And you see here, seeds is the most regulated input you have. It is from rebreeding, access to genetic resources, to marketing, from certification, phytosanitary certificates, registration, protection. A diverse range of regulations are applicable. And we are looking for this. We are looking for this to move seeds around. We are looking for that countries have an opportunity to also import seeds or to export seeds. But how we can address this? Because the business environment is a starting point for seed sector also to invest somewhere. It means we need to sit down together and to address also the regulatory framework. And the regulatory framework is then helping us also to set up perhaps an integrated seed sector. But there I'm also saying what I would like to see, and we are here also with the CGIAR, it is clear the private seed sector should and is ready to take up varieties coming from the public authorities. This can be a first step and can structure production, multiplication, and support to bring this on the market, because we are speaking here on markets. And I think therefore we can think and we should think together how we can structure these efforts better together. I think we have no more excuses now, and we should also avoid that there are too many projects out there. This is also something we are facing in many countries, is there are lots of projects, similar projects happening. And I think this one here could perhaps be an opportunity to structure ourselves in a coordinated effort to work together in a country like Congo. That means from our perspective, we are ready to engage. We are ready to sit down with you and to think about how we can take up also as a private sector varieties coming from CGIAR, but also how we as a private sector can go somewhere and start to build an integrated seed sector. Again, all starts with the seed system. And in too many countries, still today, the seed systems are potentially not yet built or structured enough. We should also be clear when what we're always saying is there's no country which is independent on seed. All countries are importing also seeds. I think that's an interdependency which is existing, and we should accept this one. We have today huge opportunities to build not only the seed systems, but to build and to offer seeds on the ground for the farmers. I'm always mentioning one thing. The private seed sector and the seed sector in general is the sector which is investing the most in research and development. You don't find any other sector out there which is investing 15 to 20 to 25% of turnover into research and development. Why we are doing this? To support the farmers, to address the diversity of issues they are facing. We are all facing the sustainable development goals. We would like all to achieve sustainable development goals. That means we have to produce more, but we have to produce also more with less. And I think how we can produce more with less land, with less inputs, like crop protection, like fertilizers, we saw the pricing of fertilizers, less water. This is also going only through innovation. And I think we should use all the efforts coming from the public sector, but also from the private sector to collaborate, to work together, to build, first of all, integrated seed systems, but also to build seed supply systems in Africa, and here more specifically in Congo. I think that's just here, there's some words to show you our really urgent call to work together, and also the willingness of the private sector in its diversity to work together with the diversity of actors. As the International Seed Federation, we will take some actions in some countries in Africa, like for instance also in Rwanda. But I think we're also happy to think about what can we do, we also as a sector, to attract our members to support your efforts in Congo, but also to help them to understand what is happening. Because I think here it's also lots of explanation, because before a private sector company is going into a country, I think they need to have also, let's be frank, the trust into the system, the trust into partners, and the trust also that there's an opportunity to build a market. But the market is not only for the private seed sector. The market has a sustainable advantage also for farmers. If we can provide the seed choice, and we are not saying that all commercial varieties are the best. What we are looking for is just that the farmer can choose, can make a choice based on his or her needs on the ground. And I think this one, that's our responsibility, the responsibility together, and offer this, and that we are collaborating on this together. With this, back to you. Thanks so much for the opportunity, and happy to engage.
Thank you very much, Mr. Keller. Thank you for the international seed companies for engaging with us, because especially this TAAT Forum is focused on seeds. Okay, sorry, I just realized my video is not on. This TAAT Forum is focused on seeds, so we're happy to have the seed associations come talk with us. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Keller and Mrs. Catherine?
If I may, I see one question in the chat to me. Would you like that I address this one?
Yes.
How is it that all seed
companies are based in global north? Yes.
I would say we should not exaggerate. There are lots of seed companies also based in the global south. The Southern Hemisphere has also a strong private seed sector. You can go to South America, for instance, or go to Asia, a country like the Philippines, or even a country, like where we started also recently some programs, Myanmar or others, Bangladesh. It means everywhere also governments are pushing to build and to support the creation of a seed supply chain, of a strong seed supply chain, which goes also with supporting the creation of the private sector. Now, coming more specifically to Africa, as I mentioned, yes, it is a reality that we clearly see in Africa, we should do more. But this is also what I'm saying, depending on the business environment. We need to work together on an enabling business environment. We need also, and I think this is important, the discussion with governments, because also to find a recognition on what the private sector can bring to the farmers in given countries. And what I'm always saying, the private sector should not replace public breeding in all the countries, but can be absolutely complementary. And this is what we have to discuss. How can we structure ourselves that we can build also in countries like Congo, a sustainable business environment with a sustainable private seed sector. And what we are looking for is not only to say, hey, we would like to bring the seed companies from the Northern Hemisphere coming to the Southern Hemisphere. Yes, I think could be part of it, like the Southern Hemisphere can go in the Northern Hemisphere. But what we are also looking for is to how we can raise and create and structure together on the ground a private seed sector in a country. And very often, this is not starting with building from scratch a breeding program. No, because you know how it is. A breeding program, it's a lot of expertise. It takes years, takes understanding. This is something which can come, but we could start also yet to build a production cycle in the given countries in coordination with the private sector. And this could end up in a later state, perhaps, then also in building breeding programs from the private sector. And therefore, I think here it's absolutely essential how we can bridge what CGR is doing on the ground together with perhaps what the private sector in the early stage on the ground could support in taking up some varieties, in producing this, multiplying these varieties and bring them to the market. And I think there's knowledge we have, and I think we can contribute to build this. I see a second question, perhaps. May I take this one? How do they directly support small-scale farmers in?
Yes, we can take one more question.
Yeah.
How do you directly support small-scale farmers?
I'm always saying absolute priority. There is no difference for a private sector to work with subsistence farmers, small scale farmers, or I don't know, conventional or big farmers from South America or North America. What we are looking for is really to support all farmers, no difference. And I can tell you, we have the examples in Asia, in the Philippines, or even in India or elsewhere, where seed companies, without regard on the size, are working, collaborating day in, day out, also with small-scale farmers. We know the role of small-scale farmers in the Southern Hemisphere, also in Africa, but also in Asia. It is absolutely essential to be able to work together. And again, there's no size of with whom we have to work together. We need to work together with all farmers. And again, when we speak about small-scale farmers, you have a lot of interesting examples around the world where small-scale farmers, smallholder farmers are using varieties, land races even for maize and others, and using some hybrid varieties for vegetable seed. That means you see also, this is what we're looking for, this diversity. We have to adapt ourselves to the needs of the farmers, but there's no size of the farmers which should be decisive if we can or cannot work together.
Thank you very much, Mr. Keller. And that's all we can take now. But as we said, just keep putting all your questions in the chat and we'll definitely will get back to you on the answers we don't have. But everything on the chat is recorded, we'll definitely reply you. So now we're going to have some videos and we'll have 3 more technologies to present for you. The first video is on high quality cassava flour. High quality cassava flour.
What brings you a cassava processing investment opportunity? What's the opportunity? Processing cassava into high quality bread making flour. So what's the current problem? Currently, because of the war in Ukraine, the price of wheat is at an all-time high. This has pushed up wheat flour prices and thus commercial bread prices. Other food processing that is dependent on wheat flour is also affected. What's the solution needed? African countries need more wheat production or an alternative to wheat flour with the same texture and taste that's locally available and cheaper than current wheat flour. This would keep commercial bread prices from escalating. What's great about this opportunity? Many African countries are currently struggling with the lack of wheat imports or high prices of wheat imports, and they are looking for a solution. This can partially substitute wheat flour by 20%. It's also suitable for manufacturing a large range of other food products. How does it work? Manufacturing high-quality cassava flour requires appropriate processing machinery, which would peel, wash, grate, dewater, dry, mill, and package. Manufacturing can be performed using simple cottage-style equipment or large automated systems. Any proof of concept? Yeah, it's already working successfully in Nigeria. Who can grab this opportunity? Wheat flour millers, food manufacturers, breweries or other alcoholic manufacturers, and large-scale commercial bakeries or small-scale artisan bakeries. Let's talk money. With an investment of only $70 to $100 per ton of fresh root, your return on investment will be $79 per ton of high-quality cassava flour. Invest in this opportunity today.
So we're going to put up now the pitch for the high quality cassava flour. High quality flour from cassava. It's a gluten-free product and is odorless, making it a great substitute additive for flour. With the high cost of wheat, we had that discussion about the wheat imports, the war in Ukraine, Russia affecting it. Getting wheat into Africa is such a problem. And this has actually affected the cost of production for bakers. But 20% of wheat flour can be substituted by cassava flour with no difference in taste, color, or texture. I know in Nigeria, there was a time, it was Dr. Adesina, when he was the Minister for Agriculture, was pushing for cassava bread. And they had such a great impact and traction. But there are like so many things that happen in a lot of African countries where the person pushing it leaves, sometimes the programs die. But I think now there's a great opportunity, as Dr. Pregene said, for us to get an advantage from this war. Yes, war is a sad thing, but if that will force Africa to step up and make sure we meet our demand in our food production, imagine replacing 20% of wheat flour with cassava, which is readily available here. That will bring out the cost of production. And I'm sure if we can get in 20% with time and the research that's going in with different CGI organization and research institutes, we might actually get to 100% cassava as baking flour, which will really help us in our food prices. The next video we're going to show, it's the Nodomax video.
TAAT brings you Nodumax biofertilizer for soybeans. Tell me more. Nodumax is a biofertilizer specifically intended for use as a legume inoculant. It is applied onto soybean seeds before planting to promote biological nitrogen fixation. It is a pea-based inoculant, ensuring that soybeans' symbiotic rhizobium bacteria are present, resulting in improved root nodulation and high rates of biological nitrogen fixation. Nitrogen fixation reduces the need for costly nitrogen fertilizers. This product is packed in 100-gram packets, sufficient for coating 10 to 15 kilograms of soybean seeds. So what's the problem? Low crop productivity of most legume crops, such as beans and soybeans. Increased high demand for plant protein is currently not met by current production. High quantity, high cost, and frequent unavailability of nitrogen fertilizers used for cultivation of legumes. Who's it for? Small-scale and commercial soybean producers, agro dealers, farmer cooperatives, and larger organizations. What are the main selling points? Very low cost, specially made for soybeans. Increases the yield by an average of 30 to 45%. Environmentally friendly. It enhances access and fixation of nitrogen from the air. Does it really work? Yes, it is already in use in Benin, Ghana, Mozambique, Nigeria, Togo, and Mali. So show me the money. Farmers buy a 100-gram bag for $3.20 and get a 30 to 45 increase in their yield. If you have large investment capital, setup costs for a plant is $270,000 US, which can produce 6 tons a year. Profit is estimated at 85 US cents per 100-gram bag. Invest in this opportunity today.
Now we're going to put up the pitch for you to see. The great thing about Nodomax, the legume inoculant, is that it reduces the need for costly nitrogen fertilizer. The yields increase in soybeans by an average of 30 to 45%. And with a high demand for soybeans by feed mills, breweries, and other industries, the use of Nodomax guarantees high yield for farmers. So we're seeking for investors to set up production plants for Nodomax and other investors and farmers for the distribution and consumption of these products, especially if you're a farmer. So you can see for the farmer, they have 30 to 45% increase in yield. And for the manufacturer, you have 0.75 to $1 profit per unit. That's a 100-gram packet. And this Nodomax is already being used, and some countries already have their factories: Benin Republic, Ghana, Mozambique, Nigeria, and Togo. So it's already proven technology, and we just want more adoption and spread within Africa. The next pitch we have for you is mineral fertilizer microdose mechanization. With land nutrient depletion, droughts, and low rainfall, there's now the need to boost crop production with either organic or inorganic fertilizer. And with the high cost of labor or reliability of labor in the rural areas or farming areas, many times you will have people, or even when you have them trying to distribute the fertilizer manually, many times they don't do it well. This machine takes care of it. And the good thing about it is that this equipment allows for application of fertilizer and sowing of seeds at the same time, saving a lot of cost of production. Definitely affects sales price, and with consumers being price sensitive now, any small increase in price affects their purchasing power. So we're looking for investors for the fabrication to become fabricators of this machine so they can sell it. And we're looking for farmers to purchase the equipment to make life easier. for themselves. As a farmer myself, and especially for a lot of us, we end up getting low-tech machines from Asian countries. If we can have some of these low-tech machines being made in our countries of residence, it's going to save us a lot of money. So do we have any questions at this moment? So any Q&A, any questions, please put this in the chat box. You can see there's so much activity on the chat box. Some the researchers, some of the presenters are answering you directly, but all the pitches with their scan code, QR codes and everything, we're going to put on the website for everybody to see. We'll get to that. So in case you missed any part of the presentation, we're going to have everything resident in the TAAT website. We're going to share the information with you at the end of this forum. So now you can see we're keeping to time. I know many of you investors or business people, the time is of essence to you. So as much as possible, we'll try to make sure that if we tell you we're going to get you out at a particular time, plus minus 10, 15 minutes, we'll try to get you out. Now we have come to the point that we're going to invite Mr. Frederick, Business Development Officer for TAAT Clearinghouse, to speak to us and give us a closing remarks and from the future brokerage roles for TAAT and where, so you see where you as an investor, as a farmer, anybody listening to here can come in and how you can get information. Mr. Frederick.
Hello, good morning. Do you see me and hear me?
We can hear you, we can't see you yet, except you're a blog wall. Yes, we can see you now.
Good morning. My name is Frederick Schreurs, but forget the family name, just call me Frederick. I'm the Business Development Officer of the TAAT Clearinghouse, and together with a team, we have organized this third Investors Forum, and I think each time the Investors Forum are getting better. So I hope you share this opinion. Let me give you a small recap, because these investors forums are important to see where we can interact the private sector with the innovations coming from institutes. As Dr. Franken said, we need to have proper seed systems, we need IP protection, we need plant variety protection rules and regulations, which still give the farmers the opportunity to produce seeds, but stops commercial company to produce my variety. Because I put money in it, I invested it, and you, as other company, cannot take advantage of it. But farmers still can use the seeds to reproduce them. So this is a good step forward. That's all based under the PVP, and plus it still can be used in breeding programs. So I think this is a rule which protects the IP, but still leaves room for creativity for the development of new varieties. A good example of this was given by Dr. John Derrera later on with soybeans. As soybean is an open pollinated variety, you always have the risk that farmers will start reproducing the seeds. But as soybean seeds are oil-rich seeds, they will be quite difficult to store if you don't have the right conditions, and they will use their vigor. And if you lose 20% in germination and you want to obtain 400,000 plants per hectare and you use roughly 60 kg, you might start with losing already 60% of your potential yield by saving your own seeds, because you might not have the proper conditions. So it would be good to stay focusing on always make sure you have seeds of the right quality. Where they come from, that's a secondary part. That's a secondary discussion. But important is to have seeds of good quality and make sure you have the latest varieties. Because as Dr. John Derrera said, there are varieties in the market which produce 1.5, 2 tons. The average in Nigeria is 1.2 tons per hectare. But if you have a new high-yielding variety with the right good agriculture practices, so you use the inoculant, you do a proper herbicide treatment, you have the right planting density, around 400,000 plants per hectare, you can go up to 5 tons per hectare. Well, You don't need to be an economist to calculate the difference between 1.2 and 5 tons per hectare. That is one of the things we like to create through these investors forum with TAAT, bringing innovations, technologies developed, investigated by the institutes via the private sector to the market in such a way that there is a sustainable system, that farmers can have access to these technologies also when there's no project to support the technology. The project should be there to fund the innovations. The project should be there to make sure that we still can get new innovations. But once it's innovated and it moves into the market via the scaling principle of private sector, it should stay available. It should be sustainable and self-supportive so that farmers always have access to the latest and the best performing varieties. This is one of the main objectives of the TAAT Clearinghouse. As you can see in all the technologies and innovation we have, seed plays a very, very important factor. We've demonstrated you quite some new innovations, new varieties, and we hope we have a follow-up with private sector partners. I noticed already a few in the chat box, and we will follow up with you. We will put you in contact with the scientists, the compact leaders who are responsible for these innovations, and then we will try to work out with you a scaling program so that you will have access to these technologies and you can put them in into your commercial package, which you will offer to the farmers. And very important, today we also created a link with the African Seed Association, the International Seed Federation, and that is a step forward to link further and deeper with interactions we already have with national seed associations. We need to make sure we cooperate, we work together, the private sector, the seed associations, the research institutes, to make sure we create a sustainable supply of seeds to the farmers. And as Mr. Keller said, it doesn't matter. It's a small-scale farmer, it's a large-scale farmer. It's a farmer, and the farmer needs to have access to the right genetics to get the right income, to get the right yield per hectare. Mr. Keller brought up also a few times the example of Congo, and I think I have to highlight a little bit. Recently, IATA became very active in the, what you call the ATA, the Agriculture Transformation Agenda for Congo, and that's a program funded directly by the president, and it links also within the activities from the TAAT, the country engagement. This project or program, actually it's not a project, it's a program, is directly funded by the president, and it focuses on making sure that the country, which soon will become one of the biggest countries in Africa population-wise, that means Nigeria will be number one with roughly 750 million. And the second one in Africa will become Congo. Off the top of my head, it might be 250, 300 million people. So, of course, that might take a few decennia, but this tendency will continue. And all those people need to eat. And at this moment, a big part of the food has been imported. So the president has realized it, and he has activated a food production program to make sure there's a value chain, that the food will be processed, so the raw agriculture materials will be processed, that the farmers will have access to good seeds, and that those good seeds will fit in the seed system. Through this, there's a very clear and deep interaction with the national institutes like INERA, like SENASEM needed, but also private sector needs to be involved. We need to create a private sector involvement to make sure that every farmer can make the choice which variety to plant, which crop he wants to grow, and how he can make sure he can increase the profitability per hectare so he can feed his family, and secondary, that the country doesn't need to import foods. The focus is at this moment very much on the most common crops like cassava, maize, soybeans, rice, and beans. But in the future, also more strategic crops will be added, like canola oilseed rape. You need to have an oil crop in the country to make sure that people have cooking oil. and not just palm oil, but also a crop which can grow by farmers. So that's an opportunity. Potatoes, we need to look into how can we produce more starch per hectare. Compare cassava with potatoes. See if we can bring in new techniques, new varieties. But that's all secondary. Initially, there will be a very clear focus on the sustainable supply of setting up seed systems for the crops which I mentioned. And I repeat, maize, cassava, rice, soybean, and beans. And that is very crucial. And I hope with this Investors Forum, we have created an interaction, a platform for more awareness into this direction. And I also hope that this project, which I keep saying project, but it's a program activated in the DRC, can act as an example for other governments. Because if you have a clear direct involvement from a presidency, from a government, who wants to set up a food production system, who wants to support a sustainable seed system in which the local institutes play an important role, I think that's very, very important. And today it was mentioned where we have good seed associations, where we have good systems. Examples were given by Dr. Fregener, like South Africa, like Zambia, like Tanzania, and even Nigeria is moving forward. Some people laugh about it, but Nigeria is moving in the right direction. I was laughing too, by the way, because Nigeria has accepted the PVP laws. That gives a protection for the private sector to invest in certain varieties and make sure that new varieties, high-yielding, better resistant, drought-tolerant varieties are available for the farmer at an affordable price and that he can select. And that's the objective. And the TAAT Clearinghouse plays a very important role in this as a brokerage institute. We'd like to interact as the intermediate function between what has been developed, what has been investigated, what is the outcome from the research, and how can we link this to the private sector and create a scaling program to make sure, and I keep repeating myself, the innovation, the technology stays in the market after the introduction in a sustainable way so that farmers have access to these technologies, read new varieties. Thank you very much for your time and for your attention, and looking forward to follow up with you.
Thank you very much, Frederick. Any questions for Frederick? Just put it in the chat. We've come to the end of this forum for today, the third TAAT Investors Forum. We're going to put up a slide for you now that shows you where we're going to get all the information we have shared and other information even for all the past TAAT Investors Forums we've had. You can get more details on the website. You can see the website information here. And some things you need to know. In 3 years of implementation, TAAT has recorded success in deploying technologies to African farmers at scale, enabling some of us to increase our yields, improve livelihood. And I'm sure with the more investors coming on board with us, we'll really surpass that at a much faster rate. As I mentioned earlier, all these technologies are already in the market in at least one country. So it is tested and proven. We are not using you as guinea pig to see if it will work. It is already working. What we're looking for is investments that are targeted towards production or distribution of the products. Depending on your investment capability, the choice is left for you. As Dr. Fregener said, let me reiterate again, ADB has released $1.5 billion, not Naira, not Lira. $1.5 billion to tackle looming food crisis on the continent. These funds will have to be channeled to about 20 million farmers across the continent for food purchases of certified seeds. That is why this seed conference is very important. Fertilizer, better farming technologies, and companies have to supply these items to the farmer. This is where you investors come in. You have an opportunity to get access to these funds to produce things that we farmers in the field will need. Let it not pass us by. $1.5 billion. I can't say it enough. $1.5 billion. If that's the last thing you remember that. This is the website for all the information on TAAT. Click it. Every information we have shared today, the pitches, the videos, everything you need to know is there. We're going to save all the questions you also asked, and we'll get back to you. When you click on it, this is a landing page you're going to see. You can see we have the first Investors Forum information there, the second one, and the third one. So if you even miss the first and second, you have opportunity to go back to see the technologies we have shared, to see where it will benefit you, and even the ones we have done today. We'll look forward to more interaction with you. We'll look forward to having more investors. We look forward to really solving this looming hunger crisis that I've been hearing since I was a child in Africa. Hunger in Africa, not enough food, not enough farmers, and the rest. We look forward to, and the only way with the age of farmers getting 60, 65, the only way we can attract the younger people to come into farming is if we give them the technology that will help them increase their production. So the work TAAT is doing on this level is highly invaluable for we farmers and the ones coming behind us. Thank you very much for logging in. Thank you for listening to us. Thank you for the questions you have asked. And then we'll look forward to more interaction with you. And with the promise, we try to keep to time, plus minus 10 minutes. That's the type of people we are in TAAT. Thank you very much and have a lovely day. Thank you.